हाँ, कल कल शाम में
रिकॉर्ड हो रहा अब।
So let me introduce.
अरे बच्चे भी तो आने दो, बच्चे कहाँ हैं?
कोई है ही नहीं।
तो आप तो बंद करके भाग जाएंगे।
बुशरा खातून, I will be here with you.
अच्छा है, आप रहिएगा। या अल्लाह।
Sir, let me start.
हाँ, now why to wait?
Okay, okay. Good morning, all dear participants. Today, the resource person, Dr. Mohd Nazrul Bari, is the resource person of this session. Uh, Dr. Nazrul Bari has a long academic and administrative experience. He is associate professor in the Department of History, Center of Advanced Study, Department of History, Aligarh Muslim University, and he also uh, uh, he has also been assistant professor in Pune College of Art and Science and Commerce and University of Kashmir University, Srinagar, and he also a fellow of Nicholas Lovick Memorial Fund. He visited England and Sri Lanka. He also has been head department of history, Central University of Karnataka. He published many books, in for instance, Enduring Civilizational Encounter, a study of Indo-Iranian relation, Deccan culture, heritage, and literature. He awarded Mira Splendor of Deer and Antelopes in Indian art and culture, a project assigned from ICHR, Indian Council of Historical Research, New Delhi. He supervised many several PhD research, uh, and he has also has been the coordinator of international and national seminar assigned by the Department of History, and published many articles in national and international journals. Now I invite Dr. Mohd Nazrul Bari to share or express his experience, academic experience, particularly on the topic today. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Bari.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Zia. Am I audible?
Yeah. You are
Oh,
audible.
thank you. Actually, the topic which I have chosen to share with you is about history, historiography, and discourse of Iron Age in India. So, which I'm expecting to review the major theories and the major arguments which was made about the Iron Age in India by the different archaeologists and the established historians. So before I start sharing my thought on the given topic, let me share some of the broad or the brief idea about what archaeology is and how archaeology is actually helping us to understand the past or to explore the past. Actually, history, what we all know, history based on a written records, while archaeology as a discipline deals mainly with the period beyond the written documents. As far as the goals of archaeology is concerned, what we have seen, the major goals of archaeology is to explore or to exploring the past, to exposing the past, engaging the past, experiencing the past, enhancing the past, and at the end, enlightening the past. As far as the duty of archaeologist is concerned, what we have seen, the duty of archaeologist is to discover, to document, to record, to describe, to discuss, to determine, to disseminate, and at the end to declare the result. Archaeology, there was a very interesting story. Actually, 2016-17, I invited Professor KP Rao to the place where I was working previously, Central University of Karnataka. KP Rao is actually an established archaeologist associated with Hyderabad Central University. And I asked him, sir, to whom you consider as a great academician, archaeologist or historian? So there was a very meaningful response made by him. A historian actually deals with the period of 3000, 3500s mainly in Indian context, while archaeologist deals with the period that is almost 2.6 to 2.8 million years. Because what we have seen, this is an established fact, the earliest human, what we call it a human being, maybe there are different varieties, different types of, categories, archaeologists and actually anthropologists has divided them into the human race which appeared one after the other. So the earliest known evidence, it was 2.6 to 2.8 million years ago. The human being first appeared in Africa. So right from 2.6 to 2.8 million up to Indus Valley civilization in Indian context, what we have seen, it was archaeologists who actually deals with the period, not the historians. As you all know, a historian is actually deals with the period where we do have written records, but that is not the case with archaeology. Now, as far as the contribution of science to archaeology, because I'm sharing this idea with you. I know most of you people are not having meaningful knowledge of archaeology, because majority of the people here are actually doing their research or their PhD on the historical themes, where they are giving more importance to the literary sources or the literary records. So just a brief idea about archaeology, what archaeology is. Okay, physics is actually contributing to archaeology to provide dating methods of the different objects or the antiquities which actually recovered or reported in archaeological excavation. And there are different methods of dating available, actually based on scientific temperament or scientific mechanism. As you all are aware about carbon dating, thermoluminescence, dendrochronology, potassium organ, and many others. Now, how chemistry is actually helping to archaeologists? Chemistry is actually the subject which deals or which help us to understand or actually to preserve the or conserve the conservation and preservation of the objects which was reported in archaeology or the monuments which belong to the past. As far as the geology is concerned, what we have seen, geology is actually helping the archaeologists to identify the rocks and the minerals and its proper source of supply. Then there is a biology which help us to identify the DNA of the skeleton, human skeleton especially. Then botany, where through botanical other through botany we can understand the different types of grains and the plants which was actually cultivated or used by the people during ancient age or especially the period where we do not have written records. And then we have zoology, where there is a branch, what we call it archaeozoology, where the people identify about the different animals on the basis of the bones and their scientific investigation, how they disappeared, what were the reason, why they particularly belong to a particular one particular geographical locations. All these we are actually getting this information through the help of different disciplines of science. Now, let us start with prehistory, because what we have seen up to 18th or 19th century, middle of 19th century, this was the belief in European world or a European academia. Okay, world was created somewhere around 4400 BC, according to the Christian theology. And it was actually 1654. There was a John Lightfoot from Cambridge University. Actually, what he calculated, 4400 BC, the whole universe was created, including Earth. And it was on 24th of October, 23rd of October at 9 a.m. This whole thing was actually appeared. And that study was actually based on the belief of the Christianity or the Bible, which they do have. Then it was in 1836, there was a person, his name was C.J. Thompson, and it was he who divided a prehistoric period into three different phases. And what he said, it was Bronze Age, it was a Stone Age, Bronze Age, and then it was Iron Age. And but even in 1836, this was the popular belief. All these three ages, including a Stone Age, Bronze Age, and Iron Age, they actually fall within the temporal framework of 6,000 years, provided for the entire human story in Christian theology. As according to Hindu religious belief, we do have four yuga: Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So now we are living in the Kali Yuga age, and according to the religious belief of the Hindu people, okay, the last incarnation of Lord Vishnu is yet to come, and then finally Parlay will come, that is doomsday, Qayamat will come. Suma Chen, who was actually the Chinese historian, court historian of 2nd century AD, long back, almost 1800 years ago, he was the one who first divided stone and metal, stone and metal age into three different phases. What he said, it was Stone Age first, then the second, according to him, was Jade Age, Jade, Jade Age, and Jade is actually a hard stone that is usually green in color, and that was mainly used for the purpose of making jewelries. And then there was a Bronze Age, and then there was an Iron Age. It was somewhere in the middle of 19th century, there was an archaeologist from England and France. They actually, by chance, they found the bones of actually the extinct species of the wild cat, or the wild animals. They were actually big in size, and it was thus clear in the middle of 19th century. Northern Europe was actually occupied by a man much before its landscape assumed its present shape or present form. Just after a few years, we do have the book that was written by Charles Darwin, and Darwin books gave the much needed impetus of prehistoric studies. And it was in 1865, the word prehistory was coined by a archaeologist. His name was Sir John Lubbock. And not only he announced the birth of a new science, what we call it prehistory, but divided the Stone Age into only two different types. One, what he call it, what he said it was Paleolithic, and the other one, what he said is Neolithic. Mesolithic was not yet invented by John Lubbock up to 1865. Now, at the end of 19th century, actually Mesolithic was a term which was invented and it was put in between Paleolithic period, Mesolithic period, and then Neolithic period. In context of India, what we have seen, the prehistoric objects, prehistoric stone tools were recovered or reported by, there was a geologist, his name was Robert Bruce Foote, and it was 1863. He actually reported Paleolithic tools made of a stone at Pallavapuram or Pallavaram. Now, what we have seen, the branch of archaeology which actually deals with the study of initial stage of human history is called prehistory. And in other words, prehistory deals with the origin and the growth of human societies before the advent of writing system. Now, Paleolithic, Mesolithic. Now, there was a third and the last Stone Age phase, what we call it, Neolithic period. The agro-pastoral cultural, development of early Holocene period. Holocene is actually the period which come after, the Holocene is actually the period which was, according to the geologist, it was started somewhere around 10,000 BC. And it was Pleistocene, which was previously there. And with the start of Holocene, what we have seen is the end of Ice Age finally came to, or it was over, the Ice Age was over. So once the Ice Age came to an end, what we have seen, that the Neolithic period started. So when the Ice Age came to an end, there was a rise in temperature, is it? The rise of temperature actually helped in the growth of population, and then it was also help in the growth of greenery or the vegetation. So Neolithic period was the period where we do have the evidence of earliest known agricultural activities, about which what V. Gordon Child said in 1900.
Hello, dear participant. There is network problem. Okay, sir. Hello, sir. Please unmute yourself. Unmute, sir. Please unmute. Dr. Bari, please unmute yourself. You are not audible. Participant, please wait. Dr. Bari has connectivity problem. जी sir. Can you hear me?
Hello,
Yes, yes, sir.
am I audible?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You are audible.
Ah, my video is not visible on the screen. Now it's fine. It seems. Okay. So what I was sharing with you, okay, why God and child call it a Neolithic revolution, and before understanding Neolithic revolution, there is a need to understand the difference between revolt and revolution. What we have seen in the context of 1857 revolt, there were people who were not happy with British rule, British policy, British system of economic and political exploitation. They tried to change they tried to kick out the British by force, but they were not successful. So we call it a revolt. And when you are successful to change the socio-economic and political condition, then it's a revolution. So we do have French Revolution, we do have American Revolution, we do have Glorious Revolution. In the same way, what Gordon Child call it a Neolithic Revolution. Because Neolithic period was the period where we do have this idea of agriculture emerged for the first time in the world context. And the idea of Neolithic revolution, as I said, referred to the origin of agriculture, animal domestication, and a settled way of life. It indicates the transformation of the society from a food gathering economy to a food producing economy. Now, the idea of revolution pertaining to the Neolithic way of life actually gives a major transformation in human cultural history. The introduction of actually the domestication of plants and animals led to the production of large quantity of grains and animal foods. Actually, in short, what I wanted to tell you, the Neolithic period was the period where the idea of private property also emerged. Is it? As people start living a settled life, they start acquiring land for the purpose of agriculture, but ऐसा नहीं कि they left animal hunting the moment Neolithic revolution started. ऐसा नहीं था. Gradually, they realized that agriculture is actually giving them food which they can store. If you are going and killing an animal for the purpose of eating, you can't store it more than 12 hours or more than 24 hours. It will get spoiled after killing the animal. But that was not the case with the agricultural productions. So gradually people realized that agriculture is actually can be more suitable source of surviving. So we can store it also. And as I said, after the end of a ice age, there was a rise in temperature, and because of the rise in temperature, there was a production, there was an increase in human population also. So there was definitely a pressure on the local vegetation. People start trying to find out a new source of food. And this was the period when Neolithic period started, and they start adopting agriculture as the alternate source of food. So in short, what we have seen in the Indian context, it was a Stone Age, it was a Bronze Age, and that it was an Iron Age. Because the Harappan civilization, the period of Harappan civilization is also known as Bronze Age civilization. But the problem with Iron Age in India is that we do not have any evidence of the use of iron in Harappan civilization. Is it? So Iron Age in India is the only period where both archaeologists and historians are equally interested due to the turning point of the cultural past. And the precise manner in which man discovered iron is definitely not known to the historians and the archaeologists, how the iron was actually invented by the people. And what were the techniques and the technology which was actually used by the people for the first time to make the iron tools. It is generally believed that the human being first introduction to the iron must have been through meteorites. And these stones from the heaven, as it was in ancient Egypt, iron was more costlier than any other metal, and it was known as metal from the heaven because of its hardness, because of its utility, and maybe because of it was meteorite which was provided for the first opportunity to use the human being iron objects. So maybe because of that also it was known as a metal from heaven. But what we have seen in the world context, the earliest smelted piece of iron actually belonged to 5000 BC, and that has been reported from a archaeological site known as Samara, and that too from the modern North Iraq. And the second evidence that belong to the middle of 5th century BC, 5th millennium BC, is actually reported from the Tep Sial, that is in Iran, and that carbon dating provides us a date that is 4600 BC to 4100 BC. While in context of India, what we have seen, till the middle of 20th century, the period between the end of Harappan civilization or disintegration of Harappan civilization, because there are two different theories. There is one theory, according to it was a decline of Harappan civilization, while there was another theory, what they said, no, actually due to the climatic change and many other unavoidable circumstances, people of Harappan civilization actually migrated to the different geographical area to have a better topography, to have a better livelihood. So whatever may be the region, what I wanted to tell you, till the middle of 20th century, up to the beginning of 600 BC, that period was actually known as Dark Age in now Indian history, especially by the archaeologists, because there were very few sites where we do have evidence of human settlement after the coming of Aryans in the Sapta Sindhu region up to 600 BC. There are very little information we do have. Now, this darkness was, however, lifted in 1947 with the discovery of a particular type of culture, what we call it painted graveware culture, or sometimes we call it PGW culture. PGW culture that was mainly associated in the Upper Ganga or Upper Gangetic Basin. So it was Ahichhatra where we do have the earliest known evidence in Bareilly district about the use of iron. And then we do have evidence of iron from Hastinapur. Then we do have evidence of iron from Atranji Kheda, which was excavated by the Department of History, our department only, where Professor R.C. Gaur was the one who took the lead. And then we do have evidence of iron at Jakhera, which was again excavated by the Department of History, Aligarh Muslim University, and it was Professor M.D.N. Sahi, who died last year only. It was he who took the charge. And there was one after the other. We do have number of evidences of iron, especially in the Upper Gangetic Basin. Now, PGW was actually the period which was named after a typical type of pottery which was painted in gray color, and that mainly located in the Upper Gangetic Basin. We do not have that PGW potteries anywhere in the Middle Gangetic Basin or any other part of India except Upper Gangetic Basin. And that was also known as Iron Age culture of India. This is what it was suggested by the archaeologists. These geographical limit of PGW culture was near to the Sapta Sindhu region. Is it? So at initial point of view, what archaeologists and historians said, maybe it was brought in India, the iron was brought in India by Aryans. Actually, at an initial point of view, there was a research to understand, as we know, horse was not known to the people of Harappan civilization, and we do have evidence of wild horse in South India, that to Paleolithic period, but that was not definitely the horse which we have seen it with the Aryans. But there are very rare evidences of horse in archaeology, and whatever evidences we do have even in Harappan civilization, that is actually belong to the upper strata. So what it was believed by the archaeologists, maybe it was the period where decline of Harappan civilization was already in progress, and there was a migration of a different type, different kind of people, and they brought actually horse with them. So horse and iron, what it was said by the archaeologists and historian, these were the two things which were actually brought by Aryans in India. Is it? And British historians, especially British archaeologists or the European archaeologists, inspired by the colonial supremacy, they were not ready to accept it. Iron may be an indigenous metal which was actually learned by the people of Indian origin, and they were the one who were involved in the technology of iron, and they were the one who shaped different types of tools according to the requirement. So what they suggested, no, maybe it was because there are no evidence of iron in Rig Veda. Is it? We do have the word ayas. Ayas that was translated by the a scholar as a metal. Is it? It was only much later we do have the evidence of two type of ayas, what we call it, Krishna ayas or the Loha ayas. Is it? Krishna ayas, that was actually the black metal, which was identified by the people as a iron. So, as I said, there was a understanding of the European archaeologists inspired by the colonial supremacy. What they said, no, actually it was not brought in India by the Aryans, but it was actually by the Persian connection. Indian came to know about the use of iron. Actually, India connection with Persia is recorded in the 6th century BC. Is it? When the northwest frontier province or the portion of a northwest frontier province was, captured by the Persian Achaemenid rulers. And what it was suggested, this idea of using iron was actually not known to India. It was imported from Persia, and then only it was spread to the different part of India. But the modern research actually says something else, which was almost opposite to the idea which was given by the British archaeologists mainly. Now, as far as the date of iron is concerned, what we have seen in 1960s or 70s or 80s, this was the general belief of the archaeologists. It was around 1000 BC, iron was actually introduced in India, and that too mainly in the Upper Gangetic Basin, which was close to the area where Aryan actually colonized geographically. So there was a possibility it was Aryan who actually brought this iron technology in India. 60s, 70s, this was actually the popular belief. Even in Atranji Kheda, what we have seen, it was 1100 BC. That was the date which came through the carbon dating about the use of iron. Then at Hallur in Karnataka, that was again much later site where we do have the evidence of 1000 BC. And then it was Ahar in Rajasthan, where what it was suggested by MDN Sai in 1980s, 1990s actually, the date of iron was somewhere around 1550 BC to 1270 BC. And then there was a UP archaeology, or what we call it, uh, Uttar Pradesh archaeology office, which is situated at Lucknow. Actually, they excavated number of sites where we do have remarkable number of iron tools, including Raja Nal Katila, and then it was Malhar, where the date is actually 1800 to 1700 BC. What it was actually suggested. In 2010, there was an interesting, excavation made by Professor K.P. Rao, who is now retired, associated with Department of History, Hyderabad Central University. So Hyderabad Central University is actually located in almost 1,000, it's a big area, and it is said it was more than 100 acre, 1,000 acre of boundary they do have in the university. So inside the university, there was a site which was excavated by Professor K.P. Rao in 2008-9, and the report was actually published in Puratatva. And on the basis of the carbon dating, what it was suggested, the date of that iron objects which has been recorded is actually, it was a TL dating or thermoluminescence dating was made. And the date is quite surprising. It was 2795 BC. Is it? So it was very surprising to see the date, because it was not known from any part of the India. Iron was used by people that to around 3rd millennium BC. Now, 2021, recently, there was a site which was excavated at Tamil Nadu, and the name of the site was Maila Dumparai, Mayila that is located in Tamil Nadu, and the carbon dating of the object or the iron object actually give us date that is around 2100 BC. So what I wanted to tell you, whatever we do believe 30 or 40 years before regarding the date of the iron, that is actually revised one after the other. And what I do believe personally, now we have more accurate dating method to understand the age of an object, especially iron in archaeology. So there is a need of revise the data also, and to relook the past in the light of what we call it the evidences available before us. Now, there is a professor of archaeology in BHU, Professor Vibha Tripathi. She is a professor emeritus, and she is the one who is the authority on Iron Age in India. Actually, she divided, there is no one proper geographical area from where the iron technology was actually spread to the different part of India. What she did, on the basis of the chemical composition, on the basis of the object, on the basis of the shape of the iron tools reported in archaeological excavation, actually Vibha Tripathi has divided 5 different geographical area where we do have the evidence of independent origin of iron technology or the knowledge of iron. The first, according to her, was Northwest Frontier Province, which including the province of Balochistan in Pakistan, and where do you have the evidence of Gandhara grave culture and part of Kashmir. The second, according to Biba Tripathi, was PGW grave in North India, especially in Upper Gangetic Valley. And then, we do Eastern India, especially in Eastern UP or Bihar and Bengal. Because in case of Raja Nal Katila and Malhar, which was actually excavated by the UP archaeology, where we do not have evidence of PGW, we do have evidence of black and red ware potteries. So iron was actually associated in the Eastern UP, Bihar and Bengal with black and red ware potteries. And then there was a number 4, what we call it megalithic culture of central India, where Madhya Pradesh or southeastern Rajasthan or the area near to Maharashtra, or the key site or the key actually archaeological site of this region is actually Ahar or Eran or Kaitha or Nagda or Prakash. And the last one, the 5th one, was actually the megalithic culture of South India. Is it? Now, what is megalithic culture? See, megalithic culture, because I'm not going into the detail about discussing every geographical zone where, iron was actually invented, the technology of iron was invented independently. I just wanted to discuss about megalithic culture, and then we will come to the historiography, how there are different arguments put forward by the different historians and the archaeologists, and what actually they wanted to say on and what is the basis of their argument. Actually, according to Gordon Child, megalithic is actually the what he has written a paper in ancient India, a journal, and according to him, he defined mega. Mega means big and lith means a stone. So megalith, big stone. Actually, that was a burial practices which was there in South India especially, where people used to mark the grave with the heavy stone or the biggest stone. Is it? We do have this system of megalithic burial even in number of other states, including Jammu and Kashmir. We do have it from Uttar Pradesh, Bengal, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, down to South. In short, megaliths or megalithic burials are found in most part of the subcontinent except Punjab's plain, Ganga divide, the Ganga Valley, Rajasthan desert, and North Gujarat. Except these places, we do have the evidence of megalithic burial in almost every part of India. But South India megaliths are actually different from other part of India, which we will discuss it. Megalith builder not known from their actual settlement. We know about people through the megalithic burial only. So what they used to eat, what kind of food habit they do have, what kind of tools they use. But as far as the settlement is concerned, where they used to live, what kind of houses they had, we do not have any idea. Maybe because megaliths are the people who built the megalithic burials, they were actually semi-nomadic people. They do not have settlement, one permanent settlement at a one particular place. They keep moving from one place to the another place. So these graves, there are 2 types of actually burials. What we call it a primary burial and secondary burial. Primary burial में क्या था कि जैसे आदमी मर गया, उसको कब्र खोदा, उसको दफन कर दिया, that was the primary burial. Secondary burial में क्या था कि when a person died, आप उसके बॉडी को जला दीजिए, and whatever skeleton remain is there, you put all that skeleton in a big terracotta jar, put grains, put iron tools, objects which he might use in day-to-day life, and then buried it under the soil and mark it with the big stone to identify the area where that grave is located. Is it? So, according to which, what we can do believe this was the way people used to have faith in life after death. Is it? Now, on the basis of the megalithic burials, archaeologists have given different terms like menhir or dolmen or umbrella stone or sometimes hood stone or rock cut caves. Is it? These all are actually based on the different shapes which the stone have on the graves. Now, what we have seen, these megaliths are mainly concentrated in peninsular India or South India, from Vidarbha to Kanyakumari. And since their discovery for the academic world was made by Barrington, that too in 1823 in the Malabar region, and they have been subject to the immense academic inquiry and study. However, the actual academic investigation only began with the work of a tailor by two different sites, one at Jawargi in Gulbarga district where I was working previously, and then Bibhuti Halli. Now, we do have large scale research on the different typology, socioeconomic aspect, mortuary aspect, technology, general aspect, problems, and a prospect of the megalithic burials. Now, what we have seen, we do have the evidence of potteries, weapons, even sickles, hoes, plowshare inside the grave. We do have ornaments, including cosmetic accessories like beads, which was buried into the grave of what we call it megalithic burials. Now, the number of agricultural tools found at megalithic sites, they are actually less in number comparing to the hunting and fighting tools. So it seems people of megalithic origin did not practice an advanced type of agriculture as we have seen in the case of northern India. Now, we do have evidence of two grains, mainly paddy and ragi. It seems that cultivated land was very limited and generally they did not settle on the plain or the lowland, what it was suggested by the archaeologist. And there is one interesting information. Now the total number of known sites of megaliths burial is almost 2,500 in South India. And the systematic excavation has been made only about 100 sites, where we do have the understanding about the food habits, ornaments, tools which was used for agriculture and the huntings. And one more thing is interesting to note, these megalithic burials of children is very rare. We do have evidence of male and female, especially from 18 to 35 years of age, but the children burials are very rare. What may be the reason that is that I'm not in position to tell you. Now, after going through megalithic burial, what I wanted to tell you, we do have evidence in South India, almost 2000 or the 2000 BC or second millennium BC was the period where we do have the evidence of the use of iron in South India. Even then, we do not have the evidence of urbanization in South India up to Satavahana age. Because see, there was 3 urbanization in North India, and then there was a 2 urbanization in South India. According to the historians' well-established theories, the first urbanization in North India was during Harappan civilization, second during 6th century BC or age of Mahajanapadas, and the third one was actually during with the coming of Turks. In South India, it was during Satavahanas, and the second urbanization in South India was during Imperial Cholas around 9 or 10th century AD. Now, what is actually different ideas and discourse of Iron Age in India? Actually, it was much before in 1955, D.H. Gordon, who suggested that iron objects was actually used by the people in India by 4th century BC. While Wheeler, who was a very known archaeologist, he had an opinion that iron technology actually reached to the Ganga Valley around 6th century BC and the beginning of 5th century BC, that too because of the Persian contact of the India. Kosambi or Didi Kosambi in 1863, actually he was the first historian. He was a mathematician by profession, but he was the first established Marxist historian. What he said in 1863, he was trying to link the emergence of peasant society, settlement and estates in North India in the middle of 5th century BC, that too with the introduction of iron objects. And what he suggested, that Buddhism also provided help in the consolidation of a society in which trade had gained a new importance. While the champion of iron theory was R.S. Sharma, and what R.S. Sharma argued, during 700 BC, the use of iron made a profound impact on the contemporary economy and society in eastern UP and Bihar. It was spread its use, and which has enabled the growth of plough agriculture, the spread of settlement, surplus generation, and the evolvement of towns. The Buddhist emphasis, according to him, the idea of the religious philosophy of Buddhism, non-injury of animals, assume a new significance in the context of new agriculture, what R.S. Sharma had suggested. While Romila Thapar, equally important and popular historian, what she has suggested, she recognized the role of technology in the process of assimilation of different culture, especially the horse and iron in the spread of Indo-Aryan languages. In her opinion, iron socketed X, where there was a space provided to fix the wooden handle, efficiently clear the heavy jungles and iron hoe, makes a marked difference in rice cultivation. This is what it was suggested. However, she stressed that iron was not a soul but one of the contributor in ushering a change in early historic society. D.P. Agarwal had a view. He was another important archaeologist. He was not historian by profession but archaeologist. What he suggested, iron age in true sense started with the period what we call it northern black polished ware. Is it after PGW? PGW period, what we suggested by the archaeologist, it was 1100 to sometimes 700 BC. And after 700 up to 100 BC, there was a period in archaeology in India, what we call it NBPW, Northern Black Polished Ware Culture. So according to D.P. Agarwal, NBPW is the period where we do have the use of or the extensive use of object made of iron. And what it was suggested by him, it was used But the iron object was used in extensive way, not because of its cheapness and hardness, but due to its large scale availability that I do not agree with. Then there was A. Ghosh. A. Ghosh is actually the scholar who wrote an Encyclopedia of Indian Archaeology in 2 volumes, funded by ICHR. So, according to the opinion of A. Ghosh, it was there was no role of iron in clearing the jungle, what it was suggested by him. So, the role of iron was overemphasized by R.S. Sharma and many others. D.K. Chakravarti, who is now a professor in Cambridge University, while agreeing with A. Ghosh, what he said, he admitted that iron technology may have a role to play in the intensification of agrarian base, but categorically he refutes any attempt to link iron with second urbanization. Both D.K. Chakravarti and A. Ghosh, they do believe that iron was introduced somewhere between 1300 to 700 BC. Now there was a Dr. Makhan Lal who actually associated with the Department of History, Aligarh Muslim University. He left it and joined some institute of a national repute in Delhi. Actually, he was an archaeologist by profession. So, according to his idea, extensive use of iron tools and clearance of forest for the agriculture is actually a misnomer. That is a myth. That is not true. And the urbanization of Middle Gangetic Basin was mainly due to the culmination of social, political, economic factors that were actually operating over many centuries to channelize the energy, resources, and generate a need and circulation of surplus. This is what it was suggested by Makhan Lal. Now, on the basis of archaeological findings, what I wanted to tell you, there was 4 different varieties of tools are actually recorded or reported in archaeological excavations. We do have, according to Biba Tripathi, we do have hunting tools, we do have agricultural tools, we have household objects, and then we do have building materials. While MDN Sahi also made classification of iron objects which were reported in archaeological excavations. And according to MDN Sahi, it was weapons used for warfare and hunting, household objects, craft tools, and objects for agricultural operations. Now, I'm not going into the detail because I wanted, it will be good to have some question also. So let me conclude what it was suggested by a group of historians, because of the extensive use of iron, especially in the Middle Gangetic Basin, that too in agricultural operation, large scale production, agricultural production was created, and that agricultural production actually, or the surplus production actually helped in the growth of non-agriculturist class, and then towns and urbanization of the cities start emerging around 6th century BC. This is what it was suggested. But what I do believe, iron is an important factor, but iron is not the important factor, is it? Iron played an important role, but you can't give credit of everything to the irons. Actually, what happened in case of Rig Veda, what we have seen, Rig Veda is actually the period which we actually define the Rig Vedic age, 1500 to 1000 BC. This was the period where we do have very limited knowledge of agriculture, is it? And there is only one grain that is actually used repeatedly mentioned in the Rig Veda, that is Yava. Yava was translated as barley, but Yava was a generic term for almost every grains which people consumed at the time of Rig Veda. So ऐसा नहीं कि सुबह शाम तक लोग बार्ली खा रहे हैं ऋग्वैदिक पीरियड में, ऐसा नहीं था, is it? But as Rig Veda is actually the text of religion, and to find each and everything that too in the Rig Veda is not true. अब मुझे किसी ने बोला, जब वो फिल्म आई, क्या बोलते हैं,
Mohenjo-daro.
जुरासिक पार्क, am I audible? जया साहब सुनाई दे रहा है क्या आपको?
Yes, sir.
हाँ हाँ। तो जुरासिक पार्क जब आई तो मुझे एक साहब ने कहा कि कुरान में तो जिक्र नहीं है जुरासिक पार्क का। मैंने, कुरान जो है वो जूलॉजी की किताब नहीं है, कुरान इज एक्चुअली द टेक्स्ट ऑफ रिलीजन, इज इट, रिलीजियस टेक्स्ट। इन द सेम वे ऋग्वेद, रामायण, महाभारत, these all are actually the religious text, but that can be also used for the source of history writing, that is true. So in Rig Veda, we do not have evidence of, or the very rare evidence of agriculture, is it? And what we have seen, this four Varna system actually appeared in the later phase of the Rigvedic culture or Rigvedic text. According to the philologist or the linguist who are actually working on the ancient language, according to which the first and 10th mandala are actually the later addition in the Rig Veda, second and seventh are the oldest one. So we do have evidence of the origin of four Varna system in the 10th mandala. And what it was suggested, when Aryan start colonizing Upper Gangetic Basin and the Middle Gangetic Basin in the later Vedic period, is it? This idea of Chaturvarna or four Varna system become rigid gradually, is it? Why it become rigid with the passage of time, especially during later Vedic period? Later Vedic period was the period when the people realized the importance of agriculture, is it? And that area, what we call it, Upper Gangetic and Middle Gangetic Basin was quite suitable for the agricultural productions. So they actually colonized the area, and for the purpose of agriculture, for the purpose of agricultural growth, they need a class of labor, is it? So that is why, because of requirement of the labor, agricultural labor was there in the later Vedic period for the expansion of agriculture. What it was suggested, there was a need to make this Varna system more rigid. So a class of people will be available to them to work in their agricultural field, especially Shudras. Now, I'm not going into the detail. What I wanted to tell you, iron was not an important factor for the urbanization. ऐसा नहीं कि आयरन नहीं है तो अर्बनाइजेशन नहीं होगा. We have seen urbanization in Harappan civilization or during Harappan civilization. There were people, there was a large scale population, there was a large scale evidence of cities and towns in Harappan civilizations, but we do not have evidence of what we call it iron or the use of iron. Secondly, ऐसा भी नहीं कि जहां आयरन होगा वहां urbanization भी होगा. We have seen there are large scale evidence of iron objects, iron tools, different varieties of iron objects has been recorded, reported from the megalithic burials in South India. But even then urbanization is coming very late, is it? So iron played an important role. I'm not going to deny it as per the available sources, but they have their own limitations, is it? We do not have something in like science in history, H plus O2 will create water everywhere, is it? Even if you will go to America or Pakistan or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka or Tibet or Bhutan, wherever you will mix these two, they will produce water. That can happen only in science, not in history, is it? Iron played an important role, but it was not the important. Secondly, there are actually data available before us. Okay, there are two different, you know, there was a classification of objects, iron objects, which were reported in excavations, has been made, and they are divided, as I said, into four different categories. There is a two different dates given. One, the iron tools, which was actually used pre 600 BC, and the iron tools, which was actually used or the reported after 600 BC in archaeological excavation. In pre 600 BC, 600 BC के पहले जो चार कैटेगरी के आयरन है, वॉर एंड हंटिंग, जितने भी टोटल ऑब्जेक्ट्स मिले हैं, अब ये 15 साल पहले का डाटा है, मे बी देयर इज ए नीड टू रिवाइज इट. So what we have seen, before 600 BC, whatever total number of iron objects reported, 35.1 are actually reported or the related with war and hunting. 11.9 are related with craft tools. 47.9 are related with household object, and only 4.8% are related with agriculture or tools of agricultural operation. While from 600 to 200 BC, what we have seen is the total number of war tools made of iron related with war and hunting is 36.5, is it? And then what we have seen, craft tools, their number was highly increased, it was 35.5. And then we do have 18% household objects, and then we do have 10% of objects related with agriculture. What I wanted to tell you, or what it was emphasized by Marxist historian, especially R.S. Sharma, due to the large scale use of iron, that too in agricultural productions, give rise to the surplus grain, and surplus grain help in the rise of towns and cities that is actually not supported by the data available before us. Now, after going through the available information or the percentage-wise iron object, we may safely conclude that there is a dearth of agricultural objects. At the same time, the presence of a considerable number of iron objects related with war and hunting during the period led us to, conclude that possibly role of iron in the process of the formation of territorial state was more required than the, agricultural operation. Actually, there is a need, what I suggest, to relook the social and economic implication of iron technology in context of the issue of soil, irrigation, method of cultivations, detail of plow technology, crop pattern, or the settlement of history, demography, then the resources which was used, what we call it, interaction sphere, and the introduction of new element like coinage and glass. So there was a data which was actually available before us from 1999. There was a Professor K. Rajan, who is retired now, who is a professor of archaeology related with Pondicherry University. What he said, there was almost 830 sites belonging to Iron Age in South India, megalithic burials especially. Out of 640, they are associated with iron. Even then, what we have seen, urbanization came much later in South India. Last but not the least, what we have seen, there was a survey which was made in 1951 by Government of India. How many people used plow in which state, and what will be the total number of plow which was used by the farmer. So according to the data available which was published in 1951, the total number of wooden plow used by the people in India was 31.3 million. Is it? 31.3 million. Is it? And that was actually made of wood used by the farmer for the agricultural operations. While only 93,000 iron plowshare was made of iron used by the farmer, that too in 1951. You just imagine what was the position when the iron technology was in very primitive stage, how the farmer can afford the tools which was actually made of agricultural tools which was actually made of iron. Now, I will be happy to have some questions also. If there is any doubt, any question you have to ask, you all are welcome. Maybe due to the shortage of the time, I was not very accurate to theorize my to present my study as I have done it. So, Dr. Zia, over to you. Dr. Zia, I think he's simply he's engaged somewhere. You can ask your question directly to me, no problem. Any doubt? देखिए, जब आप सवाल नहीं पूछते हैं तो उसका दो मतलब होता है, या तो आपको सब चीज समझ में आ गया या कुछ समझ में नहीं आया. तो आई डू बिलीव कि आप सब समझ में आ गया है जिनको, और ऐसा नहीं है उनको समझ में. सवाल सिर्फ, हाँ पूछिए. सवाल पूछने में कोई परेशानी की बात नहीं है. आई विल नॉट चार्ज मनी फॉर इट. सेकेंडली उसमें क्या है कि इससे मालूम चलेगा कि यू आर वेरी सिंसियर, यू हैव लिसन द लेक्चर केयरफुली. यस. अच्छा, so it seems there is no question. As I know, because most of you are not having exposed to archaeology or archaeological study, I can understand your limitations. But even then, if you feel you can ask something related with what we discuss it today, you are free to ask.
Hello, sir. Thank you for your lecture. Now, participant, the session is open for your question. Thank you, sir. Nobody is here to ask question. So, thank you for you express your idea about on historiography on Iron Age, and
There is one question.
yeah,
Why
yeah.
places we see,
Okay, sir.
why in some places we see Neolithic culture, but in other places like South we find other? Yes, Aksa, it's a very interesting question. In case of North India, what we have seen, there is a Paleolithic period, then there is a Mesolithic period, and then it was Neolithic period. In case of South India, what we have seen, it was Paleolithic period, it was Mesolithic, and then it was directly jump on Chalcolithic, not on, what we call it, Neolithic period. Neolithic period was actually एक मिनट. Yes, what I was telling her, in South India, we do not have Neolithic period. We do have Paleolithic, we do have Mesolithic, and then we do have Chalcolithic directly. Is it? This is what I was trying to tell her. In case of North India, we do have Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, and then we do have Chalcolithic. Is it? This what we have. Now, what is the reason why we do not have Chalcolithic period? Actually, the earliest known sites of Paleolithic period and Mesolithic period are situated in South India, not in northern part of India. Why the people settled in South India during Paleolithic period? Because this was the period people used the tools which was mainly made of stone. A stone was locally available, and then there was a need to stay, there was a need to occupy the naturally made caves. Is it? Naturally made caves were available to us in South India, that too in a huge quantity. The stone objects were available through which they can make their tools. Is it? So, in case of a Stone Age culture, what we have seen, almost all the important sites during Paleolithic and Mesolithic period are situated in South India, not in northern part of India. Now, in North India, there was a plain area, there was a perennial river, there was a place where people can get use of water for the agricultural purposes, for the purpose of irrigation, for the purpose of drinking. So that is why we do have evidence of Neolithic sites mainly in the northern part of India, especially that the earliest known which are available to us from Balochistan, that is Mehergarh. So because of the geographical location, because of the topography, because of the climatic conditions, is it? We do have Neolithic sites available in large number in northern part of India, not in southern part of India. Secondly, one more thing I wanted to tell you here, in northeastern part of India, we do have polished tools, which was actually the characteristic feature of Neolithic period, but we do not have evidence of agricultural excavation or agricultural productions in northeast India. Even then, we identify that site as a Neolithic sites. Is it? कोई जरूरी नहीं कि जो भी पैरामीटर है that will be available everywhere, then only we can identify that particular site as a Neolithic site or Chalcolithic site. Just for example, Neolithic sites at Burzahom and Gufkaral that are actually belong to the 2nd century or middle of 3rd century BC, the 3rd millennium BC. While in case of Mehergarh, what we have seen that belong to the 5th millennium BC. तो कोई उसका फिक्स पैरामीटर नहीं है कि उसका पीरियड यही होगा या उसके इस पीरियड में आ रहा है 5th century 5th millennium BC में जो भी साइट्स इंडिया में अवेलेबल हैं कंटेम्पररी टू मेहरगढ़, दे ऑल विल बी न्यूलिथिक साइट्स. ऐसा कोई फिक्स पैरामीटर नहीं है आर्कियोलॉजी में. एज टोपोग्राफी, ज्योग्राफिकल लोकेशंस, अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ वाटर, all actually played an important role in developing the regions in Indian history, about which we will have a second lecture. Okay, what is the role of natural resources in the development of what we call it regions in Indian history? That we will discuss it in the next lecture. But anyway, it was a good question, Aksa. Anything else?
Sorry for interruption. I skipped the earlier part due to my network connection. Please, can you repeat how we deciphered or how we categorize? Uh, in some places, we see, as my question, that in northern side we see Neolithic period, but not in south. South we we see megalithic period. Why this so?
Actually, as I said, कि South India में agriculture तो we have seen कि in South India in comparison to North India, there are datas available before us. Even in South India, people, it seems, were using iron object much before the North Indian people. Iron technology was known to them. They start shipping different types of iron objects of the daily use, especially which was used in war and hunting. Is it? There are evidences of agricultural objects made of iron also reported from the megalithic burials. But even then, after the use of the extensive iron objects, what we have seen, urbanization did not appear in South India. Is it? Up to the age of Satavahanas. So my observation is that iron is not an important factor for the rise of urbanization in any part of the world. There are many other factors which are responsible, including geography, geographical location, fertility of the soil, availability of the rivers, perennial water source. All these are actually helpful in rise of towns and cities in any part of the world. Now, as I said, the agricultural productions, we do have very rare agricultural space which was utilized by the people, by South Indian, especially what we call it South Indian people for the agricultural operations. Now, we have seen, according to the Sangam literature, the geography of the region was, or the geography of the period, there are 5 different geographical location, 5 different occupation which was there during the Sangam age, where Sangam age is actually the earliest known literary source available to us to identify the occupation, geographical location of the people living during Sangam age, especially in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and part of Andhra Pradesh. And according to the information available, what we have seen, out of 5 people, 5 group of people, there was one group of people, they were agriculturists. Is it? About whom we call it Tinai. Let me get it. Let me get that information. I have read it somewhere. So most of the people, only one group of people where the land was available, people were actually involved in agricultural operation. Why there were people, they were actually involved in raiding or the robbery. There was another people, they were actually in the fishing. There was another people, they were actually living in the region where there was no agricultural production. So they were surviving on the basis of hunting. So agriculture was not an important factor in South India, and even the urbanization which took place in South India during Satavahana period was nothing to do with agriculture. What we have seen, it was due to the international trade. We do have large scale Roman coins available in the coastal area of South India, and urbanization in South India is related with what we call it international trade, not because of the surplus productions. So in short, what I said, due to the geographical locations, availability of the rivers, because whenever you are doing agriculture, you need a perennial river which the water can be used for the purpose of irrigating the field. And there are very rare, where there are very few number of rivers in South India. They are actually flowing around the year. They are not the perennial river. During ancient period, what we all know, because all the ancient settlement were on the bank of river only, because the people can get water for the drinking purposes, they can get water for the cooking purposes, they can get water for the irrigational purposes, they can get water for the animal purposes, for the purpose of feeding the animals. So water was an important source. That is why we do not have, there are very less number of rivers in South India where water was flowing around the year, and because of that, we do not have the Neolithic, phase in South India. Only after Mesolithic we have directly Chalcolithic.
Anyone else? Okay, sir.
ठीक है सर. ठीक है, थैंक यू जय साहब.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes.